just in case it gives me the, huh? Huh? Sit right there? Yeah, that's totally fine.
Sorry.
Just do not.
I know, don't touch it.
Stay away from this. I'm really protective of my tripod because I have this thing set up so perfect. I'm like, just.
It's so cool. Dr. Robinson, right? Yeah.
I already know. Is there anyone else who's new, who just like found us on the startup page website? Yes. Yeah, okay. Let's just do a quick before we officially start around the room. Will you each just say your name and who you're with?
Hi everyone, I'm Heather Day, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm Ryan's mom, who is also a youth entrepreneur. And we again found online and just wanted to be here and hear what you had to say and be part of the community.
Oh, welcome.
Hey everyone, my name is Garrett Rose. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I interrupted Addison, making sure no one else is going.
Yeah, my name is Ryan, and I'm a student at TechArtista.
Welcome in.
I'm in seventh
Second grade.
What is your business?
grade. Well, my business is called Ryan's Creative, and I just like to do things I like and sell them to other people.
Love that.
But she does
Crochet.
yeah, crocheting, different objects, whatever she comes up with, just creates it and gives it to our church and whoever else supposed to buy it.
All right, let's go across the road. Your name and who are you?
Okay, my name is Sylvia Chapman. I am the owner of the Imaginations LLC for planning.
You can have a seat there.
The founder of Vision to Lifestyle Entrepreneurs.
Hi, my name is Shay Danners, and I'm the CEO. And, I'm not.
I own the business now.
Yeah, sorry, now my name's Garrett Rose. I'm with, well, not that it wasn't before, but. I'm with a company called Simploid. We're a full service PEO. And that's just a fancy acronym for saying we handle all of the back end stuff that comes along with starting up a business. You got an idea and you take that to market. Oftentimes, once you scale, you run into a lot of problems that you didn't account for. Having to navigate through HR, payroll, employees, workers' compensation, and benefits. So we tackle all of that really so small to medium-sized businesses and startups especially can focus on what they got into business to do and grow their company.
In the interest of time, I'll introduce a few important friends in the room. Mark Hauser with the Missouri After School Network. Chris Ho is a doctor and an entrepreneur and is a big support in our community. Jessica Murray is the
AV chick right now.
she's our audiovisual streaming live today with VentureLab. Cynthia Chappell with Black Girls Do STEM is here with us, and Max Rago with TechArtista. And I see two new friends in the back too. What are your names?
Okay, Lloyd Bruce, I'm a business coach. My company is called Creative Consulting. I am also an IT strategic planner type person, as well as professional speaker.
And you're teaching like some class over at UMSL, right?
Yes, adjunct instructor at UMSL, teaching entrepreneurship. Way too many things.
I was like, I cannot top that, but my name is Lisi Kafar. I am development coordinator at Guardian Angel. I sit on the board, Young Professional Board of Wyman, and also the board of nonprofit marketers. And I was invited by Peter.
Awesome. Well, welcome to our community panel about the State of Youth Entrepreneurship in our beautiful city of St. Louis. I am Kristen Raines. I'm the Program Success Manager with VentureLab. Our goal is to close the opportunity gap for future creators and leaders, developing students' confidence, creativity, and growth mindset at a young age, especially for girls and historically marginalized youth. Can change the way that they see their place and power in the world. Our mission with that is to create the next generation of diverse innovators by making entrepreneurship education accessible to youth around the world. And we do that through curriculum that serves grades K through 12. We do training for educators and program data reports. All right. These are some of our St. Louis partners, a handful of which are in the room today. We are very proud. I could go on and talk about each and every one of them, but that's not the main point why we're here today. We are, however, very proud to be partners with each and every one of them. And we are powered by our St. Louis council members too, who have volunteered time to help spread youth entrepreneurship education across our city. So a big thank you. If we can, all right, and the stars of today, up front here, sitting patiently, thank you. Will you each introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so my name is Anjana Goli. I'm a high school senior right now, and I'm the CEO of Recipes and Making Genesis.
And my name is Joshua Dannerch, aka Mr. Fresh, and I'm a 15-year-old founder of Mr. Fresh, which is an air freshener and deodorizer company. And I'm the youngest, I'm the only kid in the world, with my own air freshener and deodorizer.
I have a one. I'm Tracy Berry, and I'm the founder of the High Movement.
And my name is Peter Joya, I'm the casting manager with Vision St. Louis Beyond School.
Welcome, thank you all for being here. Okay, first question. All right, so at VentureLab, we believe that entrepreneurship is more than starting a business. It's a way of thinking and doing. It's a mindset and skill set. It involves identifying needs, thinking of creative solutions, and taking calculated risks. So you'll each notice the sheet that you have in front of you. So we also believe that high school is too late to start. We start as early as first grade, and our curriculum starts with creativity. Personally, I also believe empathy has a strong role in that journey. So first question, will you start us off? Because in addition to being a high school student, you are a research assistant at Washington School of Medicine. You are an entrepreneur with a big fat capital E, like it is in your heart and your soul. You started several businesses. What role do creativity and empathy have in your journey?
Yeah, so I think creativity and empathy play a huge role in, I think, not just entrepreneurship, but just going about life in general. I think when I think about how I was creative through my entrepreneurial journey, I think it was sort of a necessity to sort of bring something that the consumer base wanted that was sort of a little bit different. And I think what comes with creativity is also being creative in the way you troubleshoot. I think there can be a lot of unique hurdles that you face through your business, and I think that was something that I really had to be creative with in terms of people that I was talking to, the resources that I was getting, and just sort of my approaches through building something from the ground up. I think when it comes to empathy, I think that is also equally, maybe not, if not a little bit more important. I think as a business owner, your job is to sort of serve the people that you are wanting to serve through your product and through your services, and I think that comes with needing to understand the people that you're working for and the people that you're working with. I think that takes a huge deal of empathy to sort of open your perspective to not just your own, but the people around you. I think that can be sort of easier said than done. It can be very hard to step out of your shoes and really understand what other people want around you. But I think that ultimately, if you're able to do that, it's something that will pay off in the long run, not just for you, but for the people that you are, working for. And I think as a CEO, as a nonprofit founder, and even as a research assistant, my whole goal is to help my community around me through whatever means possible. I think it's really important to sort of finding your internal motivation to do so and really being effective with the way that you do that. So I think to sort of come back to creativity and empathy are two very important facets of how you go about doing these things. I think without them, you might not be as successful in things that you do. But it will feel a lot more satisfying to know that you truly, generously help people, which is always my goal.
Mm-hmm. A beautiful answer message, and coming from somebody who, how old were you when you started on your entrepreneurial journey?
I think I was 13.
13. Yes. You said something I believe in your quote was creativity in who you connect with. Summary of empathy. All right. Peter, our dear friend Peter,
Yes.
you lead, you have seen the mindset sheets 1,000 times over probably, because you lead our programming in the after-school space across your sites. How have you witnessed creativity and empathy fueling kids' innovation?
I mean, empathy is one of the very first steps of like understanding what others might need, or just being empathetic to those around you and really feeling like what they might be going through, so that you can then be creative in how you innovate and how you step into that. For us as the educators, I mean, the space is all about creating an inclusive environment. Empathy is the first step in that, right? Understanding where all of the students that we're working with are coming from, and being able to create an inclusive space for them to be creative. And then that creativity can just blossom from there. And I mean, those are the two like really foundational parts of any curriculum, let alone entrepreneurial curriculum.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing a really great job at that. I love visiting students and missions think of this. Okay, Joshua, you have an impressive entrepreneurial track. You started your car air fresheners at the path into the car industry.
Right.
I understand you have bigger goals.
Yes, I do have bigger goals. So my own luxury sports car dealership. Also we're still on the topic of creativity and empathy. So with creativity, creating something that's unique, creating something that's passionate, creating something that's worth your time, something that you love, something that you want to do. And with empathy, knowing, because I'm with products, so knowing your customer, knowing that the customer comes first, and when the customer tells you this is good or this isn't good, listen to your customer so you can succeed in the business world. And that's, I think, that.
Tracy, would you like to add on to what's been said?
Well, for me, I'm a licensed therapist, and so a lot of the products and the services that we focus on with our girls, because we're gender specific, we specifically work with girls. It's all about empathy and seeing where they are, meeting them where they are, and learning what some of their needs are. That then, if they realize that is a need for me, then it's a need for my community. And so that will allow us to make the lavender oils and be able to give them some of the products, the period packs, just different things that they may need in the community. But they see that if it's helpful to them, like Ryan, making things that fulfill her, and then to be able to give it to someone else, that's powerful because it's something that everybody needs. So everybody's needs are different.
Yes. If it's a need for me, it's a need for my community. Yes. That is absolutely what we want youth to see, is that the problems they want to create in their community are valuable, and we want them to keep going with those ideas and following them. Yes. All right. Next one. So in our event description, we have STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, with arts, all under an entrepreneurial lens. And it might not be obvious to people how these fields are connected. Tracy, if we can start with you. You've worked with girls, and I understand that a lot of them have a passion with STEM, education, and projects, and have gone on to start their own businesses. How do you see these fields are connected of education for them?
Well, I think that in today's society, for me, a lot of the girls are writing books. And as a therapist, we make sure that all of our girls receive journals. And there's a huge kickback on negativity when it comes to digital literacy. So what we have done is we have a wellness mascot. Her name is Joy. You know, I have to look up Joy. But we bring her into the community with the girls, where they literally create like apps to focus on mental health awareness. So for them to be able to utilize that technology in school and the branding, realizing that I'm a brand, like our brand says I define me. So creating t-shirts and different things that they can do in the schools, because schools now have all of these different machinery that they can then go in and make it and take it. But also realizing that my brand is more than a highlight reel. It's something positive, and it focuses on joy, like just being original you. So the areas that I like to focus on with them is the art piece, and then the mathematics piece. Like everybody's seen the TikToks, like, give me my money. What does that mean? Like, what does give me my money mean? And then how are you going to apply the money that you get to, again, help out your community? So that social entrepreneurship piece is really important.
Peter, I saw you laughing pretty hard. Would you like to share next?
The give me my money, I laughed literally yesterday. I'm watching first graders do that with each other. And I'm like, really? What
money?
What money? Okay, but anyway, I mean, the connection between everything is, I mean, through the lens of entrepreneurship or anything, really, all of these areas are going to overlap in so many different ways. And that technology piece that is so prevalent in what we use today and what we see everywhere. I mean, most classrooms have computers or laptops. Most everybody is doing things on a technology, and they might not see that when they're putting something in art on there, that it's a piece of an engineering design, right? And then into the entrepreneurial mindsets of like, you're taking that piece and then creating a product or an app or a service, and you're utilizing all these different components. Logoing is art. The science behind your research and your development, I mean, every piece just overlaps. So that's one of the cool things about the entrepreneurial curriculum is that we get to touch on all these different layers just by having these conversations and having them in other less, you know, when you're first starting, it's really just play. They're playing, right? And they're learning all these components in a way that's fun, engaging, and it's just magical, and you can really tie it all together like that.
It's delicious.
All right, Anjana, you're rolling deep in the STEM field. I saw some of the papers that are going to be published, listed on your website, and you have an entrepreneurial journey. So how do have these fields overlap for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, even more than overlapping, I think STEM and STEAM is at the core of sort of everything that we do. It's just a matter of how we sort of manipulate and work with the world around us to do better things. So I think there's definitely a lot of overlap. I think like what Peter said in terms of all the parts of the entrepreneurial journey is almost everything is including STEAM and STEM. And I think when connecting this to young kids and people who are trying to get into entrepreneurship, they have to realize that it's not completely different. It's all very interconnected. I remember a funny story that my mom was telling me when I was really little. She would make me do like math problems and like really fun like STEM things, and they're really fun to me as a kid. And my mom told me, she was like, "Oh, kids don't know the difference between like toys and like STEM things. Like they're all just the same. So if we can cultivate that love super early and create a joy for STEM and STEAM to lead to entrepreneurship, I think that's an amazing thing." And so, like you said, I do research at WashU, and I'm actually going to a conference on November 15th to present my paper in Boston, and it's really exciting that. Thank you. It's really interesting to see how sort of the work that I do in research and the work that I do in my businesses, they all sort of interconnect, and I think that's just a testament to how much STEM and STEAM is just our world around us, and how our process of discovering and using the things around us to make a difference. And so when talking about overlap, I think it's more than overlap. I think it's just the things that we do. Everything that we do has some connection to STEM and STEAM. And I think just recognizing that and sort of understanding that and even making the best of it, I think is probably the best way to go. Really do.
And you're going into in college, right, as a biology major?
Yeah, so I'm applying as a biology major and an entrepreneurship and innovation minor. So I mean, these are things that I'm continuing to do in school, but like I said, I don't think they're very separate at all. I think it's a very interconnected journey. So although my majors and minors might be separated, I think they sort of lend itself to each other. My biology major will teach me the things that I will use in my entrepreneurship and innovation minor through using biology and innovation. I mean, I think that's what the core of research and biotechnology is, and you can see that in sort of every facet of life. Yeah.
Joshua, do you want to add on?
Yes, so with STEM and the overlapping, I would piggyback off of what she said with overlapping. It's really mainly with STEM is it's everywhere. It's connected everywhere in my business. You might go to science and technology, the engineering, the math, the arts. Like even with my book is teaching my business and teaching youth entrepreneurship to kids. So it teaches them about how I formulate my product, what I do with my product. So it's mainly about with my business. It's overlapping in my everyday life. I really like that it's cultivated to the younger community.
Yeah, and sharing your story is an amazing way to show you,
Right.
like, hey, someone your age who's like this can do this.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. I'll go to the two adults for the last one. If you were to name one program who's doing this well in St. Louis, who would you say? I hope it's Mission St. Louis.
I mean,
Is that
I was gonna say, I can say my own organization.
Yes.
That's not too conceited. Yeah, I mean, we are working with K through 11. We don't have any 12 graders at the moment in entrepreneurship, but instead in all of it, right? Like a big part of what my focus is finding community partners, bringing them to our organization to lead youth in all varieties of enrichment activities and just help create their passion. We want their passion to drive them to their goals, whatever those may be. And I think that's what we're doing. That's why we're being intentional with it and why I have the pleasure of being here with all of you. So hopefully we can continue to create more and more of that in this community.
Yeah. To the rest of the panel, any program or organization in St. Louis you would name?
The first time when you say K-12 education programs that are like on the weekends or in the school.
Anytime.
Okay, because the first thing I thought of when I thought of STEM was Black Girls for STEM on weekends, of course, and all the things that they do in the community. And then her program works with entrepreneurs and brings them to different party events. And we work with Sister Keeper, the Identify movement, who work specifically with schools. On Mindset Mondays, we have our entrepreneurship program where we teach the girls every day. Beautiful. So we're in several different school districts. And the girls really benefit from it because they're making body oils, they're learning about therapy, they're writing books, they're doing meditation, with videos, and they're making affirmation bracelets, all those type of things because words matter. And I think that they're seeing the benefit of it because it does teach them that creativity and the brand and the logo, putting everything on it. Someone said something about the age. You said, like, what's too early? Because we go to elementary schools and I was telling them, when you get to middle school, then you can start your own business. And this fourth grader, she's like, well, Miss McGee, I already have my own business. And I was like, oh, well, what do you do? And she said, you all know, she said, early in the mornings, I come to school and I meet all the girls in the bathroom and I lay edges. And lay edges. She like takes it and lays the edges and she makes her own gel and she puts it in. And so by the end of the week, she gets like $10 per girl. And it's something about going in class and your hair is done and your edges are sewed.
Absolutely.
I was like, what kind do I need? Give me the pink one. So it's never too early. And I think the pandemic has showed us that our girls, they think that's our spots.
Absolutely. All right, so a report from Battelle and Ruling Our Experiences surveyed 17,000 girls during the school day. And they found that while girls' interest in STEM is increasing, their belief in their abilities is decreasing. Tracy, we have to start with you. Directly from the front page of your website, if I can quote, the I Define Me movement. Society does not define me. Through our culturally relevant programming, mentoring, conferences, speaking engagement, books, and therapeutic services, our girls take a pledge not to allow society's statistics to define them.
Right.
Do these data points?
Yes.
For a moment just for that. Do these data points reflect what you see in your work with girls?
Absolutely. I mean, we know that at a certain age, especially specifically middle school, it decreases. And I think that that's why there's a need for the STEM and sports and all these different things to come together. I think that social media plays a big role. And I always tell the girls, you're comparing yourself to somebody's highlight reel and it isn't real. When you can literally be able to apply something, do it, and share it with each other instead of comparing. We do a lot of comparison in the community, and I tell people all the time, I don't compete, I'm complete. And so there's not enough organizations. So there is a need for the IDFA and Girl Scouts and Girls Inc. and Girls in the Know and Black Girls Club all to come together because then you got that imposter syndrome. So it just plummets. And all it takes is one girl to say, oh, really? So you got your little fresh? No, I'm Mr. Fresh. There's nothing little about what I'm doing.
Right.
And then that person just shuts down. So we have to celebrate our differences and realize that no, society does not define me. I define me.
Joshua, we can go to you next. Part of your mission is to promote emotional, mental, physical, and financial maturity, as well as self-esteem and self-confidence in African American girls.
Yes.
Would you like to add on anything about that?
Yes, so, with promoting emotional, mental, physical, financial maturity, as well as self-esteem in African American boys, with promoting that, I'm teaching them that they can do it too in the community. It's not just this person can do it, or this person can do it, or this person's the guy, or this person's the girl. It's everyone. Everyone needs to stick together. We need to do this thing together and not, like often separate communities or separate societies. Everyone should do it together, and we should grow together and be together.
That part. Anjana, I'm not asking you to speak for every girl on the planet with this, but to your personal experience and also your work with your nonprofit, where you connect and empower high school students to realize their own potential. What connection do you see?
Yeah, so as a girl, as a girl of color, I think this is especially sort of hard hitting to me. I think one thing that I think to sort of maybe question why this happens with girls' interest increasing in STEM, but maybe the belief is lack of good examples in media or successful girls and girls of color who have been able to do this. And so I guess a huge part of my mission is to sort of become an example, to help other girls know that they can do this. And I think sort of get rid of the sort of societal stigma that we have around women in entrepreneurship, which is why things like Black Girls Do STEM and things like that are just so incredibly important to uplift girls. And I think with my nonprofit, I do target high schoolers, but a big part of my mission is doing DEI work and making sure that underrepresented communities, marginalized communities, and people like me are know that they're worthy enough to do these sort of things and are more than capable enough to sort of be an entrepreneur, do whatever their heart pleases. One thing that I commend from a lot of the panelists here is that they're also some very good examples. I know especially Peter as a teacher, and it's just so incredibly important to have teachers who are able, teachers and role models who are able to cultivate that within you. Because as a student myself, I can tell you that the impact of a good teacher or a good mentor is everlasting. I mean, I remember every single teacher of mine has made a big impact for me. And I guess for me, Mr. Smith from 3rd grade, who was my first introduction to being creative. And I remember my first sort of experience with entrepreneurship was in 3rd grade, where we had an entrepreneurship unit and we were selling string bracelets that we made. And I was the only, one of the only girls on my team, but my teacher made it so easy for me to sort of believe in myself. And at that point, it was like a competition between, all 3rd grade classes, and they elected me to be the CEO of the company. And that was so exciting. That was so exciting for me because I never saw a CEO that looked like me, or even a mentor who looked like me. And I think it's just so incredibly important to have role models who sort of believe in your mission and are able to do, really motivate you to do things that you do. So I'm so incredibly grateful for everyone on the panel that are sticking up for people like you, people like me, and organizations like that. And I think especially within environments of entrepreneurship and STEM, where it's it's always been sort of a white male-dominated field for so long, and it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It should be a place where everyone feels included in it. Anyone who wants to do STEM, anyone who wants to do entrepreneurship should be able to do that. And I think as we're seeing more and more girls in entrepreneurship, it really makes me happy because it's finding a community that I never had for so long, and finding people who are like me and being able to develop communities that are like me. it's one of the biggest pride and joys of the things that I do. So I guess I want to take this time to very much appreciate all the people who are working towards that mission, because for kids like me, it really makes, it makes the world of difference.
Beautifully said. And thank you to all of you that are here too, because just giving space to listen to these voices and anybody who's listening on Livestream helps us make progress in that. Peter, the report goes on to say that confidence and a sense of belonging in school help. And that is something you do beautifully at your sites. I've experienced it myself. Would you like to add on anything?
Yeah, I mean, the confidence piece is very crucial, but confidence comes from building that environment of inclusivity and having a space where people can just fully realize themselves, right? Their own potential, their own creativity, not just whether it be STEM or anything that they want to pursue, just being confident, being themselves, being ready to fail. I mean, to throw out one of the mindsets right away that, embracing failure, right, is a huge part of everyone's growth, no matter what path you choose. And I've seen that we have similar reports from even just our own program of our levels, like grade levels and test scores and everything are going up and up and up, and yet people's efficacy, that whether they think they're doing well, keeps dropping. And I know it's a big part of what we try to combat, but it all stems from confidence, having that empathy, and creating that inclusive environment for them to thrive. And that's the majority of what I try to do and inspire, and all of the educators who are currently working with the students right now, and trying to make sure that they create that space where kids can fail many, many times and know that it's not just okay, it's part of the process.
Okay, that brings us into VentureLab's approach. So we train and support educators to practice these approaches with their students that you see on the left side of the slide here. And I have some empirical data showing that our programs positively influence male and female identifying students, and with slightly more positive influence on female students. So we're seeing that these techniques are empowering the next generation of innovators, and with promises of that being a more diverse next generation of entrepreneurs. But there are limitations to trying to spread these practices across and into more areas. So Joshua,
Yes.
before we met, I scoured your website, saw your interviews, I talked to your mom, and you embrace every single one of these approaches. You do it yourself, and you lead when you're teaching STEM
Yes.
in these ways also. So how easy or difficult has it been?
I feel like with promoting all these practices, it's relatively easy to the youth because they look up to me. They look up to me and see me doing these amazing things in the community. But I feel that with the challenges is keeping these practices implemented into the community, because it needs to be spread everywhere. Everyone needs to experience these entrepreneurial things so they can understand the business world and see the skills and understand what I do. And I had to teach them that if I can do it, so can you.
Very nice. All right, and Tracy, you have a vision statement that includes breaking down the walls of prejudice, fostering diversity, enhancing self-esteem, and cultivating leadership skills. Will you share your experience and perspective in bringing that vision into practice?
I think that there is a huge opportunity, especially in the community that I serve. And most of the girls that I serve, they're trying to break cycles. They're trying to do something that someone in their family may have never done before. Or if they did it, they want to do it the correct way. And as a result of that, there's a need, because you, like she said, you can't do what you haven't seen before. And so the struggle is finding competent people that are consistent with their brands and understanding the steps behind it so that it can be successful. I mean, I've had a nonprofit for over 20 years. It's a small nonprofit, it's grassroots, because I need them to see me, but I also need other successful people that look like them that they understand and relate to, so that they can be vulnerable and be able to say, I don't understand this math piece to this, and I don't know, I don't understand the language, and so understanding those basic things. So the other thing is, because a lot of the things that I do focuses on social emotional learning, that a lot of schools feel like that it's an after school component, but it's a during school component as well. So the kids that could definitely benefit from this after school, they're needing to go home and take care of their siblings. And we need to be able to think outside the box, like during the pandemic, and maybe offer some of these things virtually, or when they're suspended, you just don't send them home with a book. I mean, with no books, we just send them home with some tools that they can do and come back with something that's tangible.
That is a dream I share with you. Yes. Okay, Peter, you ran into roadblocks when you were first introducing entrepreneurship. I mean, you're now well versed in it. You've built up family interest and student interest. Will you share about that?
Yeah, I think when we first were bringing on entrepreneurial curriculum to our after-school space, the biggest hiccup was people hear entrepreneur, ugh. You know what I'm saying? They hear that and all they think of is starting their own business, right? That's it. That's all that comes to mind. And what we've had to do is work through that there's a whole gamut of aspects of education and your own life and your again, the confidence component that can come from these mindsets and these types of failed experiments, right? Like you want to go in, if everything worked the first time, you'd never learn anything, right? So you need to fail. You need to pick yourself up and go, okay, well, I still got it. I'm still able to do this. Or maybe your passion changes and it doesn't fail because you didn't try, but because you didn't want to do it anymore, right? And so seeing that and then incorporating, again, that fun, that play, that, hey, we're just building something here. There's no wrong method. Like, build the tower, however you do that. It doesn't matter. And encouraging that to where they can see small successes, be praised for it, which leads them to try bigger things and fail, and then bigger, and right, and it just keeps growing. And the whole idea is that not only will the kids get that excitement, and then if they go home and they talk about it and tell their family, that it spreads more. And that's the entire purpose of education in my eyes, is that everybody can have it, everybody gets it, and that we continue to pass it along, and it's never just a stop point.
Mm-hmm. You said something a couple of times now, Peter, failure resiliency, that makes me think of the importance of that skill, because a lot of times in the business world, we think of skills like business modeling, being able to build a good slide deck, and there are like formulas for success. I'm going to put that in quotes for things like this, but you run into things like Anjana said, where you get customer feedback and you need to change something, or somebody makes fun of your idea and that gets you down. And that's where that failure resiliency and needing to like change your business model, incorporating customer feedback when it's not great. And that's where these skill sets, when they're embedded in kids from the core of them, that helps them overcome those moments later on in life when you're working on something like a spreadsheet and something goes wrong and they're able to laugh at it and roll with it and learn from it. Because they're that sense core of what their skills are, they're strong in. So thank you, Josh. Anjana, would you like to add on here?
Yeah, so I think I sort of echo what everyone else has been saying. I think in terms of being able to accept failures is really, really important. I think one thing I would also add in terms of collaboration is being open to reach out for help and being open to admitting to yourself that you don't know something or you don't know how to go forth and reaching out for help, because I think that's incredibly important. I think especially for me when I was navigating through building up recipes, it was like, okay, I don't know how to like do a test run on my business. I don't know how to collect, valuable customer feedback. How do you actually do, a survey for your customer base? These are things that I had to first sort of admit to myself, like, okay, like maybe there's some gaps in the ways that I'm doing this. Recognize that, okay, I want to fill these gaps, and then being able to reach out for help. I think it's a very commendable trait of a good entrepreneur, is not knowing everything yourself, but knowing where to look for the right answers. And so I think when it comes to sort of failure resiliency, I think Obviously you want to try things out on your own first, but also knowing that you have a whole, ocean of resources and, ahead of you, and being able to sort of navigate through those and being able to use them effectively, I think is a very, telling trait of a good entrepreneur. So I'm building up on, entrepreneurship in young kids and sort of exposing people to that. I think it's sort of a combination of, being open to new ideas, being open to failure, and also being able to, be open to working with the team, being open to working with other people for ultimately the best outcome. Because at the end of the day, it's very much, not just a success for you, but it's a success for your business and the success of, the impact that you're making, whether that be, like Peter said, just building a tower, that can be, come from a lot of places, whether that be, looking to, past experiences that you've had, learning from those, and then growing, or being able to reach out for help, in order to go forward. I think that's sort of, VentureLab does a really great job of that, of really emphasizing, these sort of traits, because I think one thing that I sort of see a theme in all my answers is recognizing that this whole journey is a lot bigger than yourself. It's a lot about, making an impact, no matter how small or big that might be. And I think that takes sort of, it sort of, requires you to sort of think a little bit outside of yourself and being able to reach out for help. Albeit not too much. You want to go through the process as much as you can on your own, because that is in of itself a learning curve. But knowing that there's hope out there when you begin, being able to take advantage of the resources around you, is very important.
I have one more thing to share with failure and with the youth. So with the youth, I feel that one thing youth girls and boys struggle with is things that are being said to them, things that are around them, the negative energy around them. When they have an idea, they want to share with their friend. Who do I go and share it to? Okay, I can share with my mom, I can share with my dad, but maybe I want to share with my friend, share with their friend, and maybe their friend say, oh, that's a terrible idea, or this and that. And that kind of downs them down, and that idea goes out of their head because just because their friend said this, or just because their buddy said this, they really don't want to have that idea anymore. So I feel that with failure, even when you're denied, even when this doesn't work out, keep fighting and keep striving and keep going, because that's supposed to happen to build you up to be a great person.
Yes, to sort of add on to that, I think it's interesting if you look at the most successful businesses that we see so far. Most of them have been denied like hundreds and thousands of times before, they find the one person who, is willing to give them a chance. I think one, example that sort of comes to mind is Canva. The CEO of Canva, which was she's probably in her 40s, she's not very old at all. When she was sort of pitching her idea to investors, I think she got denied maybe 1,000 times before she got her first investment. I mean, she's, a billionaire now, and she has built a, company that I think almost all of us use on a daily basis. I mean, I know I use Canva for logos and things like that. But I think that's a really great point that you brought up. And I think the best things that we see come out of this world are things that people have not seen before, and people are going to think that it's weird. They're going to think that it's useless. But there's always a target demographic, and I think the best sort of success stories are the ones that we see with the entrepreneur having the most belief in themselves, even when the whole world is against them.
And shout out to Canva for these. Also for powered by Canva, all of these. Yes, absolutely. So don't let people say that was your idea. All right, we are going to wrap up my last question with the youth. Because we're talking about youth entrepreneurship, it's important that we elevate their voices. So this will be hard to narrow down because it takes a village. But what have been two most impactful inputs on your journey, and how can we better support youth to?
Yeah, so I think the top two inputs that I've gotten on my journey would be, I think, one, sort of echoing some of the points that we've had, I think, is learning to take feedback and learning how to recognize, wanting to make things better. Because I think what happens with a lot of sort of entrepreneurial journeys, or I think just like creative journeys in general, is that we've spent so much time cultivating something that it can almost be blinded by the flaws that you have in your own journey or your own progress. And I think a big part of that is learning to take and accept feedback, because you're ultimately just trying to make the best things possible, and that means sort of understanding that feedback is really important to making your journey better. So even though you would have put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, I don't think that should be discounted at all. But if you recognize that there's something that needs to be changed, or needs to be different, you should try your best to sort of approach that as much as possible. I think sort of another sort of input that I've gotten.
You shared a beautiful story about your grandma.
Oh yeah, I can share that. To sort of as an input is like, and again, sort of echoing the things that we've talked about is sort of cliche, but never give up. I was talking to Kristen about this during our call, but my grandma was actually in like the 1950s, was wanting to go into STEM as well, and you can probably imagine what rural India in the 50s as a young girl would be for someone who wanted to go into STEM. I mean, to give a little bit of context, child marriage is still a prevalent thing, but especially then, girls, especially in their educational journey at 5th grade and 6th grade, get married really early, but she wanted to go get a PhD. And that's something that was unheard of, and it was very, very hard for her to get into that space herself. But I mean, she has a PhD now in botany, and she's a professor and incredibly strong, smart woman who has been sort of like my first sort of role model I've had in my life to go into STEM. Because before her, our families had never gone into STEM of any sort. So I think to sort of my second point, I think never giving up and sort of finding a community and a village behind you that really believes in you, because that can make the world's difference. I mean, isolation is not something that anyone wants to ever deal with, right? And I think especially in entrepreneurship where, like I said, even though you hear a lot of people say they don't like your idea, those are going to be some people who say they do like your idea, even if they don't, they'll support you in your journey. And I think resiliency is a huge aspect of that. So I think things like that were brought up, like words of affirmation, seeing role models are things that can really, really benefit, especially a kid who's trying to go into these fields, because nothing is impossible and nothing is different for any person. It's all based on you, and so no matter how society frames you as a person, it doesn't have to stop you. You can find people who will support you, and you can find places where your ideas will be heard and accepted, as long as you have the motivation to do so. And so I think I always aspire to be like my grandma, to continue doing that. I think I've been very fortunate to have a lot of strong women in my life who have been role models. I think even my mother has been such an inspirational force to me, and I think Mark can attest to it. And she drives everywhere to do all these things, and is always a strong lady in her own right. And so I think finding and again, sorry to echo the points that I've already said, but having role models and having people to look up to is so incredibly important. And I guess my 2 points would be, one, being able to take feedback, and 2, with that feedback, never giving up, and always knowing that it could be a long journey, but at one point there's sort of like at the end of the tunnel, as long as you're willing to cross the tunnel. So yeah.
And Joshua, who's been most impactful?
I feel that I'll say two. So with the first thing is my mom. She's been a really impactful person on my journey. I remember the story when I was 9 years old. I asked her, I was like, Mom, why don't you help me start my own business? Because she's a business consultant and she was helping other people start their own businesses. And I was like, Mom, why don't you help me start my own business? Because I wanted to do the same thing. And I wanted that help. I wanted that love from my mom that she gave to other people. And she said, well, Josh, what passion do you have? And I told her I had a passion for cars. So she was like, well, why don't you have a passion or create an idea to formulate something inside of the car? And I was like, air freshener. So with my air freshener, something that makes it different from every others is made with 100% sustainable oils. Like you spray Febreze, it'll last for 30 seconds to a minute. Spray my air freshener, it'll stay in the room maybe for 1, 2, 3 days. So that's something that was really impactful on there with my mom. And a second thing was my mentors that have helped me to, I guess, continue to succeed with my business for success, like a King with lipstick. When I had won the UMSL grant at UMSL, that was a great impact on my business, and he was able to step in and help me with certain things there too.
All right, well, that's the end of my questions. Let's open it up to the floor. Any questions from the audience that you would like to hear from our panel? Yes.
This is a question, I don't know if anybody can answer this, but I've never been able to figure out. You talked about, never giving up being persistent with your idea, yet being willing to take feedback. And I've had a couple little entrepreneurial things in my own career, but I always wonder, when do you know if the feedback you're getting means you need to shift gears and do something different, or if it's no, I'm certain about what I need to do and I need to keep going forward. So I don't know if anybody's got any input on how to figure that out, because it probably happens often in the journey. So, do any of you wrestle with that, or, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, so when to take feedback to heart and into action, when to let it go.
Yeah, so I can sort of chime in here because I think I've gotten a fair amount of feedback over the years of doing this. So I think one thing that I sort of always is never discounting feedback. I think when I get feedback, I always, have to recognize that there's a valid reason why you got this feedback. So when you're deliberating this, oftentimes if there is actually a hole in the things that you're doing, with the feedback that you're giving, you'll always sort of like recognize that at some point, and you will either go forward with the feedback. So if you get feedback, deliberate about it and say, I'm not thinking of anything that will, help with this feedback, then there's sort of like, paths that you can take there. Maybe this person isn't the target demographic. Is there something that I should change there? Or just recognizing that, again, my product is maybe not for everybody. But I think more often than not, a lot of the times, and I think you brought this up as well, that feedback is almost 99.9% of the time something that you should take into consideration. Oftentimes that means that there is something that could be better about your product. I think even the biggest companies, they still have a customer support box or a feedback thing, and you'll see their terms change every so often, and you'll see parts of their services change. So I think to sort of answer the question, when do you know when to sort of stick with what you have versus take feedback? I think that's when you should be honest with yourself. Have you deliberated over this feedback enough? And more often than not, if you have done true deliberation with the feedback that you get, oftentimes you'll think of something that will help make this better based on the feedback that you get. And I think even to sort of tie into the STEM research process, oftentimes when you submit a manuscript of a paper, you'll have a huge peer review process. And I mean, this takes months and months and months before your paper gets accepted. And so when I submitted my paper, I thought it was a perfect paper. Perfect, but I thought it was a good paper. That's why I submitted it, right? But I mean, I got so much feedback from these peer reviews, and I was like, oh yeah, I never really thought about that. Oh yeah, maybe my interpretation of my data was a little bit skewed. And so, and then when you are working with a body of work of your own, it can be really easy to blind yourself to sort of, holes in your ideas. But I think more often than not, your feedback will lead to maybe not even changes in the way you do things, but a new perspective on maybe you want to shift trajectory of the way you go about things. So I think my answer is more often than not, your feedback will be helpful.
Tracy?
My perspective may be just a little different in that being that I'm a visionary, God gave me the vision, not anyone else. And so there are times that I'm like, I'm gonna go wellness mobile for girls, and it's gonna be the first one, blah, 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 blah. And so it's like, well, I don't know, it's gonna take a UPS truck and turn into, and I'm like, yeah, because I can see it. but you weren't supposed to see it because it wasn't for you. I'm gonna have a wellness mascot, but don't we have enough mascot, not a mascot for girls that they see a reflection of? So that's part of the whole I define me. I know where that came from, and I am a faith walker. Well, I'm not a faith walker anymore. I'm a faith flyer. I process it, but I do have accountability partners, people who are like, let me run this by you. I mean, I'm not a girl anymore, so I don't want anything to be fake. But okay, you have a little yellow in there. So I have to listen to my demographic, but when I get the vision, I don't let anybody stop me. I'm gonna have to fail like horribly. I'm just gonna keep failing at it, because once I get that, I can't sleep. It's just ingrained in me to do it because God showed it to me.
I heard, I think, truth in both of your answers.
Wait,
That when you have a vision and you have a clear, at VentureLab, we call it our North Star, and it probably doesn't come just from you, like you said. You have a higher power guiding you. I'm sure your work in therapy with girls too, you're hearing things that you realize, like, this is a need. And you can drive it forward and choose who you get your feedback from, because like Anjana said, it is essential to have those people you turn to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, any other?
Yeah, we have a question online, actually.
Oh, wow.
So,
I was even thinking about that.
yeah, so Mike Sever asks, what resources are available to kids to launch their ventures in St. Louis? And can the panelists' LinkedIn profiles be shared in the chat?
Okay.
So St. Louis resources, and share out your LinkedIn
St.
profile.
Louis resources. Jessica, can you pull their LinkedIn links while we're up here?
Yeah, I'll try, and we'll I'll edit the YouTube description to link to your LinkedIn profiles, and I'll.
People find you.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I think I'm friends with both of you guys.
And then program in St. Louis. Mark?
Well, I was just gonna say, I love that question, and I wanna just, I don't live in St. Louis, but we work with programs in St. Louis, but I would say this, in our state, St. Louis has a robust, broad-based perspective on youth entrepreneurship that includes both school-based and out-of-school time, as well as a higher ed ecosystem that supports that. So I think what we have to do is say, we have nonprofits like Sophie, we have summer experiences like the Awesome Academy that does that through SLU. We have after-school programs like Mission St. Louis Beyond School. We have Webster Groves School District is now looking at doing it from K-12, both in the school as well as out of school time. So St. Louis resources are available. We just have to find a way to make sure that people know where they are. And I think events like this are helpful because VentureLab has now come into our city from Austin, Texas. They've come into St. Louis because they had opportunities to work with programs across the state, but saw that the ecosystem in this city is really, really ripe for us to really elevate students. So I hope that maybe that can answer that question, that person online, because we can't tell them all. I mean, Albie's here. Albie Mitchell is at South Tech. He is the entrepreneurship and marketing teacher at South Tech. Well, so that's a school-based program, but he also finds a way to build bridges to the other aspects across the city. And I think that's really key for the work in this city with students, is there are resources. We just gotta make sure that students know where they are and make sure that they're available to them. And there are a lot of great free resources and nonprofits doing work to elevate students in this city. I think that's one of the things that needs to be shouted from the mountaintop, wherever we can shout it. The city is doing great stuff. And I say the city, it's the people in the city across, whether it's in the city or it's in the county, whatever it is, it's happening. We just gotta make sure that people are aware of it and then more students can find out.
Doesn't have to do a plug with the VentureLab. We have a lot of free resources.
Exactly.
On our website. Anybody is welcome to email me and ask how to get our programming in. Yeah, and Albie, absolutely.
I was gonna add one other thing. I just found it today, but the whole, this whole event series this week, Startup STL, is packed with great stuff. But there was a session, I don't know if it was today or if it's tomorrow or what day it is, but it was all on a new website, which I hadn't found before, which basically has links with brief descriptions and tags to all kinds of resources in St. Louis, whether it's networking events, funding, Supply STL, that's what it is. So I was just looking on there today, so Supply STL, I got to put, yeah. And so really diverse set of resources there, and there's ways to search through them, both in terms of like what you're looking for, who you are, you're an entrepreneur, you're a small business owner, all kinds of filters and stuff. But I was just looking through there. Some I knew, some I didn't, but that's a great place to really dig in and mine and explore. And there's other places that have ecosystems and other links and stuff like that. But that through that one, you can probably find pretty much everything in St. Louis.
Yeah. And shout out to Albie, you're bringing your high school students to some of the STL Startup Week events on Thursday, right?
Yeah, we'll be back in this space on Thursday, most of the day, so I'm looking forward to that.
Anyone else with St. Louis-based resource? Sylvia?
So I have the Entrepreneurs Mentor Program. We are basically right now trying to connect, with the libraries that I spoke with you about. So we offer workshops and things like that, connect them with small business owners and bring them in the room together so they can kind of pick their brains and talk to them and possibly gain a mentor out of them to mentor them in their business. And we also work with for the pitch competitions, to help them get started and pitch their idea. We had a workshop for them. We brought in some judges ourselves and we could mentor them and go into the rooms and connect with them. And we did like 2 sessions where they helped them build up their pitches and things like that. And we also find events for them to be able to sell their items. And we also have a lady that works for me. She works for the bank, so she talks to them about banking and things like that, and helping them price their inventory and things like that.
And what is the name of that program?
Visions to Life, Young Entrepreneurs.
Sophie makes a great point about libraries. Let's not forget the St. Louis County Public Library, and that is a huge, talk about free resource. Go to your librarian and they will be glad to help you.
I just had one of their, Paul Stinson actually, he was in my class today, talking about all the resources that they've got available at the St. Louis County Public Library.
Yes, St. Louis County Public Library. There is the branch across the street from Frontenac Mall, has a makerspace and some staff there that's very active. The Kirkwood Library, Mel Lambert knows all the entrepreneurship resources. Follow her on LinkedIn if you're not already. Our St. Louis City libraries too also have very robust programming across several branches.
And I just wanted to say for everybody who's watching, we are on Facebook and Instagram. Visions to Life, Young Entrepreneurs Mentor.
Any other questions?
Yes, I think Joshua said it, and I missed the first part, but he mentioned about the UMSL program. And
Yes.
sir, you mentioned about higher ed, so what's the name of that program?
It's the UMSL Accelerator Program.
Yeah.
Accelerator
It's an
Program.
accelerator.
Okay.
Yes.
It's also been rebranded. It's also called the Entrepreneur and Innovation Center now, IEIC.
Thank you.
Regarding libraries, they actually have an open house tomorrow about all the free resources they have. I would say as a part of TechArtista, I don't see WeWork, I don't see any of them as our greatest competitor. It's the free resources you can get at the public library. So I might be doing myself a disservice. I care way more about what we're doing here.
Collaboration.
They have everything from maker resources like looms and weaving material to like podcast recording materials. So lots of free stuff out there. And I'll try and find the info on that supply side thing for
My heart warms so much with how many times we've said library in the last.
Well, and that's a great point. Like, I remember we had a rural program, and Mel Lambert was the one that made a comment to one of our directors of a rural North Central Missouri program and said, hey, go to your public library. It was in Centralia. And the director went to Centralia Public Library, the librarian. And within 2 days, all the resources she wanted were there and offered them for free for those kids to use. I mean, it's like that. So that's the kind of, because they're public servants and they want to make sure that our communities are thriving. And so that's key. It's so key.
When you talked about the impact, people who have impacted life, one of the reasons why I do my program and have mentoring wellness circles is because I didn't have those mentors in the community. And being that I'm from St. Louis and I'm part of the DSEC program, and if you ever heard me say the wheels on the bus didn't go round and round all over the town, I had to catch the bus to the other side of the town. We moved a lot. When my mom, they would drop me off and back from after school programs, I would have to drop me off at the County Rich Library. And the librarian was my mentor, and she showed me the space where I could read, Judy Blume books and Maya Angelou, I know why kids were singing. So my mentors came from books of people that looked like me that did things that I never saw happen. And so if it wasn't for the County Rich Library, even my mom went to Southern and she was 15. They made her drop out when she was pregnant with me. And she went to get her GED at the County Rich Library. If it wasn't for the library, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of go back off what Tracy said. When you think about the library, right? I think about when it comes to Joshua, because a lot of people are asking me to be his mom. They're like, well, how did you consistently cultivate him to do what he does? Because again, with our children, a lot of times, they change their mind, right? They decide today they want to do this and tomorrow they want to do that. But then I always ask them as well with us as adults. I say, don't we do the same? Don't we change jobs? Don't we decide we don't want to do this? Tomorrow we don't want to do that. So what I showed Joshua is that when he came to me and asked me, because I was actually, like I said, a business consultant, and I have so many other people, and he looked and had a conversation and set me down. He was like, Mom, he was like, you help everyone else. He said, but when did you help me start my own business? So I wanted him to show and see someone like me, to show him the support and show him that he could do what it is he wanted to do. So I wanted to be that mentor for him, to give him the confidence that he needed to have, basically even as a mother, because he is my baby, right? So I was gonna do that extra that was needed. So it's often we went to the library. We went to get the different resources that we needed. Even the not-for-profit that we support is the outreach, the food outreach is because they have free lunches there. And a lot of times, when we were there just working, they would offer him a lunch, and he was like, well, I'm not really hungry, and why did they offer me a lunch, right? And so we would go in, and so eventually they told us that they were free lunches that they just offered because they wanted to make sure that the community had it. So we actually give donations to outreach, to food outreach, because there's resources that they have. So the library was very resourceful in building our business because we spent many hours there reading, researching. But he needed to know a lot of things as well. So I had to make sure that he did the research. He knew what he was doing. He read the books. He saw what needed to go into his own business. So when he said, well, Mom, I need to formulate these different things. Okay, the internet is bulky and fine, but also I want him to go into a book and see what was needed and put that research in it. And then a lot of the librarians were resourceful in the information that we needed with competitive, looking who our competitors were and looking where we needed to go as far as like strategically placing the product. And so that's why you see him north, south, east, and west. But a lot of the information came through the library.
Yes. I think you've all highlighted that there are some amazing resources available in our community. So get out and check them out. Visit your library, talk to your teachers, visit co-working spaces like this, places that are open to the public, because there is a lot available. I think if we all talk to each other and share just what we're working on and what we're looking for. We don't have to rush out of the space. That does conclude our official events, but if you guys want to meet and mingle, I encourage you in VentureLab style to just introduce each other and to reflect on a mindset that you use often and one that you might like to use more when you step outside of the doors today.
Good job.
Yeah.
Full-time job.
That's awesome. We have a question online.
I know that is like better than I thought. As far as our mic is a little bit softer, but I'm just so excited. I'm just so nervous. We had some mic issues with the streaming, so I'm just really happy that people can hear. Oh, you know, like, oh, it's not your mic. What? Oh, my yes, Mike 7. Oh, yeah, I'm muting it now.